Welcome to the channel guys. This video is for college and sixth form students studying level 3 BTEC IT. In this video we're going to talk about user interfaces for your Unit 1 IT Systems exam. If a question comes up about user interfaces, they'd most likely ask about which interface is more suited for a certain user type. Towards the end of the video we'll go over an example question that could come up on your exam. If you want to skip to that part, I'll leave a timestamp on the screen. So we're going to run through the pros and cons for each user interface, and it'll help you figure out which interface is better for different types of users. The first interface we're going to talk about is a CLI, or a command line interface. This is where the user would type in commands in response to prompts displayed on the screen. A benefit of using a CLI is that it takes less time to carry out tasks, especially when you compare them to different types of interfaces, like a GUI. You could also talk about how they don't use a lot of power or memory on the device that you're using. One of the issues about using a CLI is that the user needs to be experienced and have knowledge on functions and commands, so this would be an issue you can talk about for inexperienced users. On the screen you can see an example of a CLI, so you can see how that would be intimidating for a new user. The next interface we're going to talk about is a GUI. These are a lot more common and they're used in smartphones and PCs. Compared to a CLI, a graphics interface is a lot more simple and easy to understand, so the user would interact with the device by selecting icons and menus on the screen. Another benefit you could talk about is how we can edit the interface on our phones to suit our needs as a user. If you're asked about the downsides of using a GUI, you can talk about the fact that it requires a lot of power and storage. This is because of the icons and menus used on the screen. Another issue you can talk about when using GUI is the fact that it takes a long time to perform functions, especially when you compare it to a CLI. It takes a much longer time to perform the same functions. The next interface you might be asked about is a menu-based interface. You might see these on ATM screens, or an example is the picture on the screen right now. A benefit of using them is that they're really simple and easy to understand, so a new user could easily navigate around the interface. Another benefit you could talk about is that you can adapt the features so it suits the user's needs. If you're asked about problems with a menu-based interface, you need to talk about how it would take too long to carry out tasks. Especially for experienced users, you can see that it'd take too long. In this part of the video, I'll have an example question put on the screen. So the question tells us that the user has many years of experience using different types of operating systems and user interfaces, and we need to explain why he would be more suited to use a CLI. So the first thing we should talk about is the fact that he's an expert. He'll be familiar with commands and functions using a CLI. You can say that this would help him over using a GUI because it would take him less time to carry out tasks. Another benefit is that it would use less power and storage on his device, so you can see that a CLI is more suited for the user.